Good evening. You've arrived at a quiet place meant for rest. There is nothing you need to do here, nothing to solve, nothing to follow closely. Tonight is not about effort or attention. It isn't about learning something new. It's simply a slow science story, spoken gently, and allowed to remain in the background as you rest. You don't need to listen carefully. You don't need to remember what is said. If your thoughts drift away, that's completely fine. Your body is already doing what it needs to do. Breathing is happening on its own. The weight of your body is being supported by the surface beneath you. Nothing needs to be adjusted or improved. This recording isn't here to guide you anywhere. It isn't leading toward a conclusion. It's designed to stay steady, predictable, and calm. Everything you'll hear tonight is based on well-established scientific understanding, not ideas meant to impress, not theories meant to surprise, just observations that have been measured and described over time. They'll be shared slowly, evenly, without urgency. Nothing here is happening quickly, and nothing here requires your response. If sleep arrives at any point, it can arrive quietly. If it doesn't, there is no problem. This story does not depend on an outcome. At times, there may be pauses between phrases. Those pauses are intentional. They allow space. They allow the nervous system to remain settled without being asked to do anything at all. You might notice moments where the words feel less important than the sound of the voice. That's expected. The meaning doesn't need to stay sharp. As the night continues, the voice will remain calm and consistent. There will be no sudden changes, no shifts in tone, no new demands. Tonight's topic is the vagus nerve. It will be mentioned softly, without detail at first. There is no need to understand it right away. For now, it's enough to rest, to listen if you want to, or not listen at all. The science will unfold slowly in the background, at the same unhurried pace as the body itself, and nothing here needs to be held on to. As the voice continues at the same steady pace, there is no need to change anything about how you are resting now. If your body feels still, it can remain that way. If it shifts on its own, that's fine too. Nothing needs to be corrected. Breathing is already happening without effort. It isn't being guided. It isn't being shaped. Each breath arrives and then leaves on its own timing. There is no need to make it slower, no need to make it deeper. The body already knows the rhythm it prefers when the environment is quiet. You may notice the gentle rise and fall of the chest, or you may not notice it at all. Both are normal. The muscles of the face may begin to feel less active, the area around the eyes, the jaw, resting without being held in place, the tongue settling naturally in the mouth. There is no instruction to relax these areas, no task to perform. They soften when they are no longer needed. The neck and shoulders remain supported. They do not need to drop or release. They simply rest where they are, held by gravity in a consistent way. Your arms are already positioned well enough. They do not need symmetry. They do not need adjustment. They can remain exactly as they are. If there is any tension present, it does not need to disappear. The body does not require complete relaxation in order to rest. It only needs time and a sense of safety. Lower in the body, the abdomen moves gently with each breath. There is no need to hold it in, no need to control it. It responds naturally to pressure and release. Your legs are supported by the surface beneath you. The weight of them is already being carried. There is nothing to balance, nothing to keep upright. The feet rest at the far end of the body. They do not need attention. They do not need warmth or sensation. They can remain quiet and unremarkable. As these physical sensations remain steady, the nervous system begins to notice the lack of demand. There is no task waiting, no response required, no change expected. This is often when activity begins to slow on its own, not because it is being directed to do so, but because there is nothing pressing to react to. Thoughts may still appear. They may be fragments of the day, images, short phrases. They do not need to be followed. They do not need to be pushed away. They can pass through the mind the same way sounds pass through a quiet room, present for a moment, then gone. If your attention drifts away from these words, that is completely fine. The body does not need constant input. It responds just as well to steadiness and tone. The voice you are hearing is not here to guide you somewhere specific. It is here to remain consistent, to provide a stable background while the body settles at its own pace. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to prepare for. The night does not require readiness. You can continue resting exactly as you are, breathing, supported, unchanged. The body already knows how to remain here. As the body remains supported, attention does not need to stay with any one sensation. It can begin to soften, to spread out, to rest without focusing on details. There is often no clear moment when this shift happens. It does not announce itself. It unfolds gradually, without being noticed at first. Awake and resting are not separate states. They overlap. They blend into one another. In everyday life, many processes move in this same quiet way, not in steps, not with signals, but through slow change that is easy to overlook. Light fades across the evening without a precise boundary. Sound becomes less distinct as distance increases. Temperature adjusts over time, not all at once. These changes do not require effort. They do not respond to attention. They continue whether or not they are being observed. The body is familiar with this kind of rhythm. It developed in environments shaped by repetition and stability, not constant alertness. Because of that, predictable patterns tend to feel safe. They do not demand quick reactions. They do not suggest urgency. Much of what happens inside the body follows this same pattern. Signals move along established paths. Adjustments occur without instruction. These internal processes are continuous. They do not pause to wait for awareness. They do not speed up when they are noticed. When the environment remains steady, the body often responds by reducing effort on its own. Muscle activity becomes less pronounced. Breathing settles into a regular pace. Attention becomes less directed. There is no need to hold on to any one thought. No need to track the order of the words. Sentences do not need to connect to one another. The voice continues at the same calm speed, not to hold focus, but to provide a consistent reference point, something predictable, something that does not change direction. In this state, thinking often becomes less verbal, less structured, not because it stops entirely, but because it no longer needs to organize around tasks or decisions. The mind does not need to stay alert when nothing is being asked of it. It can remain open without monitoring. There is no instruction coming, no action required, nothing to anticipate. The science in this recording will continue quietly in the background. It will move at a pace that does not hurry. It will not build toward a conclusion. Details may pass by without being noticed. that is expected. What matters more is the sense of steadiness, of things continuing without change. Time can begin to feel less distinct here. Minutes do not need to be counted. There is no sequence to follow. The voice remains even. The environment remains the same. And as this quiet state continues, it becomes easier to let awareness drift without needing to mark the moment when it does. The transition happens on its own.
As this steady rhythm continues, the science story can begin to take shape without needing close attention. Tonight's topic is the vagus nerve. It does not require effort to understand, and it does not need to be followed closely. The vagus nerve is one of the main nerves in the body. In anatomy, it is known as the 10th cranial nerve. It begins in the brain and extends downward through the neck, passing through the chest and continuing toward the organs of the abdomen. This path is long and continuous. It does not stop at one location. It connects several regions that are always active, even when we are not aware of them. The vagus nerve is part of the autonomic nervous system. This is the part of the nervous system that operates without conscious control. It manages functions that do not need decision or effort. Most of the time, these functions are unnoticed. They continue whether or not attention is present. The vagus nerve carries information in two directions. Signals travel from the brain to the body, and signals also travel from the body back to the brain. In fact, a large portion of the signals carried by the vagus nerve move upward from the organs toward the brain. This means the brain is constantly receiving updates about what is happening inside the body. These updates are quiet. They are steady. They do not arrive as messages that need interpretation. They simply inform the system that things are continuing as expected. The vagus nerve does not act on its own. It does not make choices. It does not direct outcomes. It is a pathway, a route through which information moves, following established patterns that remain consistent over time. Because this nerve is involved in many internal processes, it is always active at some level. There is no on or off state. There is only continuous signaling, adjusting moment by moment to changing conditions. These adjustments are subtle. They do not announce themselves. They are not felt as distinct events. From one moment to the next, the body remains within a narrow range of balance. Heart activity, breathing, and digestion all continue within limits that are maintained automatically. The vagus nerve plays a role in this ongoing regulation, not by controlling each function directly, but by participating in a broader network of communication. This network has been studied carefully over many years. Its structure is well described. Its general function is widely accepted. There is nothing speculative here, nothing hidden, nothing that requires belief. It is a physical nerve made of nerve fibers carrying electrical and chemical signals, just like other nerves in the body. Its activity does not depend on attention. It does not increase when it is noticed, and it does not decrease when it is ignored. It continues doing what it has always done, moving information along familiar paths at a pace that does not rush. For the purposes of rest, there is no need to remember these details. They do not need to be held in mind. It is enough to know that such a pathway exists, that it is present, and that it operates continuously, without effort or awareness. As the night continues, this quiet system remains active in the background, steady and unchanged, while the voice carries on at the same calm pace. There is nothing here that needs to be used, nothing that needs to be adjusted. The science is simply being described, softly, and allowed to fade into the same background as everything else. As this quiet description continues, It can help to notice how wide the pathway of the vagus nerve is, without needing to picture it in detail. The vagus nerve does not focus on a single organ. It is involved across several systems that operate together, moment by moment. Along its path, the vagus nerve is connected with the heart. It is involved in signals related to heart activity, not decisions, not commands, just ongoing communication that helps maintain a steady range of function. The heart does not wait for instruction to beat. Its rhythm continues on its own. The vagus nerve is part of the network that monitors and adjusts that rhythm, quietly, without awareness. The vagus nerve is also connected with breathing. Breathing happens automatically, adjusting to posture, movement, and rest. There is no need to manage it, no need to guide it. The signals involved respond to changing conditions on their own. The vagus nerve carries information related to these changes as part of a larger system that keeps breathing flexible and responsive. Further along its path, the vagus nerve connects with the digestive system. Digestion is not a single action, it is a continuous process, moving at a pace that shifts slowly over time. The movement of the stomach and intestines, the release of digestive fluids, and the timing of these processes are not controlled consciously. They continue whether or not they are noticed. The vagus nerve participates in the signaling that supports this ongoing activity. It does not speed things up. It does not slow things down by choice. It simply carries information within the system as conditions change. The vagus nerve is also involved in certain reflexes, simple automatic responses that protect the body and help maintain internal balance. These reflexes do not require planning. They do not require learning. They are built into the system. The common thread across all of these connections is that they operate outside of conscious control. The body does not need to think about them. It does not need to supervise them. They function best when they are left alone. The vagus nerve does not coordinate these systems by itself. It is one part of a larger network, working alongside other nerves and signaling pathways. Together, these systems maintain stability. Not a fixed state, but a range that allows for gentle adjustment. This kind of regulation is continuous. It does not begin or end. It does not switch modes suddenly. From one moment to the next, signals move, responses follow, and the overall state remains within familiar limits. Most of this activity remains unnoticed. It does not produce clear sensations. It does not demand attention. This is why it can be present even as awareness softens, even as thoughts become less defined. The body does not require understanding in order to function. It does not wait for explanation. It continues its internal communication regardless. As these systems remain active, there is nothing extra that needs to be done. No action improves them. No focus enhances them. They are already in motion, already adjusting, already responding to the quiet conditions of rest. For listening, it is not necessary to keep track of which system connects where. These details do not need to be organized or remembered. It is enough to recognize a general pattern, a wide network, steady communication, continuous activity without effort. The vagus nerve remains part of that background network, active but unobtrusive, present but not demanding. As the voice continues, these ideas can remain loose. They do not need to stay sharp. They can drift in and out of awareness, just like other background processes, continuing quietly without needing to be followed. To place the vagus nerve in a wider setting, it helps to look briefly at the system it belongs to, without going into detail. The vagus nerve is part of the autonomic nervous system. This system manages functions that continue without conscious effort. It operates in the background, supporting the body moment by moment. The autonomic nervous system is often described in two broad parts. One part is involved when the body needs to respond to change. The other is involved when conditions are stable. These parts are not opposing forces. They do not compete. They work together, shifting gradually as circumstances shift. At any given time, both are active to some degree. The vagus nerve is associated with the part of this system that is more active during periods of rest. Not as a switch, not as a signal to stop, but as part of a steady pattern of regulation. This pattern does not aim for stillness, it aims for balance. Balance does not mean that nothing changes. It means that changes occur within a range that the body can manage without urgency. When the environment is quiet and predictable, the autonomic nervous system often adjusts on its own. There is no need for instruction, no need for intervention. Heart activity remains within familiar limits. Breathing adapts to posture and rest. Digestion continues at a pace that suits the moment. These adjustments are small. They happen continuously. They do not arrive as noticeable events. The vagus nerve participates in this ongoing process by carrying information within the system. It does not direct the system. It does not decide when changes occur. It simply takes part in communication that is already in motion. This communication does not require awareness. It does not improve with focus. It does not depend on intention. For most of the day and most of the night, the autonomic nervous system operates quietly, without drawing attention to itself. It has been shaped by repetition over long periods of time. Its responses are familiar to the body. They do not need to be rehearsed. Because of this, the system tends to settle naturally when there is nothing pressing to respond to. There is no single moment when this happens, no clear boundary, just a gradual shift toward lower demand. The vagus nerve remains involved throughout, not increasing its effort, not reducing it deliberately. Its activity continues at a level that suits the overall state of the system. For listening, there is no need to track these relationships, no need to hold the structure of the system in mind. The details are not important now. They do not need to be remembered. It is enough to know that the body has ways of adjusting quietly when conditions allow, and that these ways operate without instruction. As the night continues, this background regulation remains steady. Nothing needs to be changed. Nothing needs to be managed. From here, there is no new information required. The foundation has already been set. The same ideas will return softly, in simpler forms, at a pace that does not hurry, allowing attention to fade whenever it chooses. By now, there is no need to keep track of what has already been said. Nothing here depends on remembering details. Nothing is building toward a conclusion. The ideas that have appeared do not need to stay clear. They do not need to connect to one another. The vagus nerve has been mentioned. Its general role has been described. That is enough. There will be no new concepts introduced from here on, no additional information to follow, no explanation that requires attention. The same steady patterns continue. The body remains supported. Breathing continues at its own pace. Internal processes carry on quietly, just as they have been doing all along. The nervous system does not need guidance now. It does not need reassurance. It already recognizes the lack of demand.
This is often the point where listening becomes optional. Words may still be heard, but they do not need to be interpreted. They can pass through as sound without forming clear meaning. If awareness begins to fade, nothing is missed. The science does not move forward. It does not become more detailed. It does not ask for understanding. Everything important has already been placed in the background. The vagus nerve continues its role quietly. The broader system continues adjusting as it always does. These processes do not change when they are not noticed. There is no advantage in staying alert, no benefit in following each sentence. If sleep arrives now, it arrives naturally. If it does not, there is no problem. Both states are allowed. From this point on, the voice will remain steady. The tone will not change. The same ideas may return, not to explain them further, but to maintain rhythm. Repetition is intentional. It gives the mind less to hold. There is nothing else to prepare for, nothing else to understand. The night does not require effort. The body does not require instruction. You do not need to follow this any further. The steady background is enough. From here, everything can continue on its own. From here, nothing new needs to be introduced. The same ideas can return gently, without being explained again. The vagus nerve remains present. It continues its quiet activity. It does not change its behavior. It remains part of a wider network, a network that operates continuously, without effort, without awareness. The body stays supported. That has not changed. Breathing continues at its own pace. It arrives, it leaves, and then it arrives again. There is no need to notice the pattern. It does not need attention in order to continue. Internal signals continue moving along familiar paths. They move whether or not they are observed. They move whether or not they are understood. This communication does not speed up. It does not slow down. It simply continues. The nervous system remains steady, not still, just consistent. There is no instruction being followed, no action being taken. The same background regulation remains in place. Quiet, ongoing. The words you hear now are not meant to add meaning. They are here to keep the rhythm even. Sentences may sound similar to one another. That is intentional. Repetition removes the need to decide. It removes the need to track progress. The vagus nerve is still part of the picture, but the picture does not need to stay clear. Details can blur, edges can soften. The science does not change, but it no longer needs to be examined. It can remain as background information, present, unremarkable. As time passes, the difference between one sentence and the next becomes less important. Words may begin to blend together. Pauses may feel longer. This is not something to pay attention to. It can happen without awareness. The voice continues at the same calm pace. It does not ask to be followed. Nothing is being emphasized. Nothing is being highlighted. The environment remains unchanged. There are no signals that something new is coming. The body remains where it is. Breathing continues as it has been. The nervous system continues its background work, quietly, without effort. There is no need to stay alert for what comes next. There is nothing else to prepare for. The repetition is enough. The steadiness is enough. Everything that needs to continue is already continuing. From here, meaning can continue to soften while the rhythm remains. The rhythm continues,
Nothing shifts, nothing resolves. The same steady background remains in place. The body is still supported. That has not changed. Breathing continues on its own. It does not need to be noticed. The nervous system remains active in the background. It is not doing anything new. It is not responding to anything unexpected. The vagus nerve continues its quiet role. It does not become more active. It does not become less active. It remains part of the same ongoing communication. There is no signal marking the passage of time. Minutes do not need to be counted. The difference between now and a moment ago is not important. Words arrive. They pass. Sentences do not need to be completed. They do not need to connect to one another. Pauses may stretch. They may feel longer than before. This is not something to follow. It can happen without attention. The voice remains present, but it does not require listening. Sound can exist without meaning. Breathing continues. The body remains supported. There is no need to check in, no need to notice changes. Nothing is being adjusted. Nothing is being guided. The environment remains quiet, predictable. The same ideas repeat in softer forms. Steadiness, continuation. The vagus nerve remains present in the background, not as a focus, just as part of what is already happening. The broader system remains in balance, not fixed, just familiar. Nothing here depends on awareness. Nothing changes when attention drifts away. If sleep has already arrived, everything continues without being heard. If awareness returns briefly, it does not need to stay. The rhythm remains the same. There is no ending approaching, no moment to wait for. The words are no longer carrying information. They are only carrying pace. That pace does not need to be understood. It can remain as background, like distant motion, like slow cycles that do not announce themselves. Nothing more is required. The night continues. The same quiet pace remains. Nothing changes direction. Nothing comes to a close. The voice continues without asking to be followed. Words appear. They soften. They fade. The space between them is enough. Breathing continues on its own. There is no need to notice it. The body stays supported. Nothing needs to be held in place. Internal processes continue quietly. They do not pause. They do not resolve. The vagus nerve remains part of that background activity. It does not move into focus. It does not require attention. It continues as it always has. There is no signal that time is passing. Moments do not need to be separated from one another. The difference between one moment and the next is no longer important. Sound can exist without meaning. Meaning can fade without effort. The environment remains unchanged. No new cues appear. The same steadiness holds. If sleep is already settled, there is nothing here to interrupt it. If awareness lingers, it does not need to do anything. The rhythm does not depend on listening. It continues whether or not it is heard. Nothing is being prepared. Nothing is being completed. There is no final thought waiting, no conclusion to reach. The night does not move toward an ending. It simply continues. The voice remains even. The tone remains the same. Words no longer need to form sentences. They can arrive as fragments, then pass. The space between them remains. Everything that matters is already in place. Nothing needs to change. The quiet continues.